Shalom, beloveds of the King. Here we are again today, coming together, praise Abba Yahuwah, as we are continuing with our prophetic book of Yeshayahu. And the more we go into this book, the more we realize, wow, what a powerful prophet Abba Yahuwah raised up. And what a powerful word, a word that Yeshayahu is prophesying into the future in terms of what Israel was going to go through, Judah was going to go through. And then it prophesies still into future, into what is going to happen in terms of when Yeshua comes. And what is so powerful is that at the end of the day, it is prophesying to us today as a message that the Father would want to speak to us in this hour, that He would want to be able to come and speak a word into our hearts. And so that is why it is so powerful, this prophetic book, because it speaks in so many different levels. And so how wonderful it is to be able to have Abba Yahuwah coming to speak to us so personally, in order to be able to hear His heartbeat. And that is why it's so important that we are reading through the prophets and that we're going to study the books of the prophets. Because the more we study the books of the prophets, the more we truly understand the Father's heart. You know, it's one thing to be able to study the Torah and we hear what the Father tells us in order to do in the Torah. It's one thing being able to study our renewed covenant. But when we study the prophets, we truly understand the Father's heart because we know the Father's way. And so the more we study these prophetic utterances, the more we understand Father is loving, He's compassionate, but at the same time, He's a righteous judge. And He will only allow His people to get away with being wicked for so long before He will bring His judgments. And then this is what we need to understand these things so that we will have the reverential fear of the Father and put that fear in its right place. Let us pray. Abba Yahuwah, I just want to thank You, my Father. I thank You for your promises throughout these scriptures. You give us so many promises, Father. And wow, what a powerful chapter this is of the revelation of us understanding that from the beginning You wanted us to be able to obey Your Torah instructions. That this is the light that is unto our feet. And who became our light? Yahushua. And that is why Yahushua is the one that we will follow. Yahushua is the one that has come to be able to be the light that shines for us, to be able to come back to You and to Your ways. And that once again You're wanting a people that are going to return back to the Garden of Eden. And yeah, You reveal in this chapter how You are merciful, You are loving, You are kind, but You are a Yah that is judged, but only for a period of time. Because then You bring restoration and healing. And so many times we go through many things and we do not understand You and we do not understand Your way. But we are to understand the things that we go through is very good for us as it builds character in us. And Yahushua Himself learnt obedience through that which He suffered. And so Israel was supposed to have learned obedience to You through what they suffered. But if we look at all these thousands of years later, where are they today? Do they truly fear You? Or have they just adapted again to another religion and follow religious ways that is so void of Your presence? And so, Abba Yahuwah, I just pray that You will come and shake out of us everything that is of religion that keeps us captive and bound in performance of the works of the flesh, that is trying to please you, void of a true relationship with you. Because at the end of the day, all our acts that we do, all our manifestations of our flesh is not going to please you. Obedience is what pleases you, because you say, if you love me, if you truly love me, you will obey my commands. And you are wanting a people that put this word into practice. Not just hear it, not just speak it, but put it into practice. And so, Abba Yahuwah, I just want to thank you that you will speak to our hearts and speak to our minds the very oracles that will come from your heart for this chapter 51. I praise and I thank you for this in Yeshua's name. Amen. And so praise Abba Father, we start reading in verse 1 and it says, listen to me, you who pursue righteousness. Wow. So there are a people that are pursuing righteousness. Seeking Yahuwah, look to the rock you were hewn from, and to the hole of the pit you were dug from. So understand, here we see Isaiah is speaking to a righteous remnant. So where Isaiah was concerned, this was going to be the righteous remnant that was going to come out of the judgment of what they've been through in Babylon and will eventually return back to the land. And so these are those who are chasing after righteousness. And they're chasing after Abba Yahuwah. Those who are seeking His face. Those who are wanting to do what is right in His eyes. Those who truly love Him. Because those who truly love Him are those who truly want to obey Him. So therefore they walk in His righteous ways. This is a word for us. For His remnant bride. For the hour that we find ourselves in. This is a word for us for now. So, this is what He's saying. Let's look. So He says, look to the rock you were hewn from, and from the hole of the pit you were dug from. So let's look to the rock. Who is the rock? The rock is Messiah Yahushua, from where we came from. So we have come from this. We are the ones that stand on this rock. And Yeshua is the one that delivered us. So He's the one that we look to. We look to the rock from which we have been hewn from. Because we are now in Him. And He is in us. And He's the one who saved us. He's the one who delivered us. And He's the one who saved us out of the clutches of the pit of hell. And He's the one who brought us out of Mitzrayim. We look to Him. He is also speaking to the remnant house of Israel. That was going to still be prophetic utterance. Understand, this did not happen in the time of Isaiah. Yet Isaiah is speaking of a future people. A future time of when Israel is going to go into captivity, into the hands of Babylon. But at the same time, Yeshayahu is speaking to us right now. Look to the rock. So who must our eyes be focused on? That's why He says, listen to me, you who pursue righteousness. So who are these? This is the righteous remnant, the ones that are going to raise up. And just as I'm reading this, I'm being reminded of a scripture that I just want to be able to have a look at as I am busy preaching this. The Father is showing me Psalm 24, powerful Psalm 24, because Psalm 24, who are these people that are going to come forth? Who does go up into the mountain of Yahuwah? Psalm 24 verses 3. Who does go up into the mountain of Yahuwah? So who is the ones that are going to return to Mount Zion? And who does stand in his set-apart place? He who has innocent hands and a pure heart, who does not bring his life to naught, and did not swear deceivingly. He receives a blessing from Yahuwah and righteousness from Eloah of his deliverance. Wow. So this is a people that are pure of heart. They are walking out in his right. They seek him, and the more they seek him, he is bringing his righteousness in their hearts. Now listen to what it says. This is the generation of those who seek him. So this is a generation of those who seek him. This is a generation of those who seek your face. Lift up your heads, O your gates, and be lifted up your everlasting doors. Let the sovereign of esteem come in. Who is the sovereign of esteem? Yahuwah, strong and mighty. Yahuwah, mighty in battle. So he's the one who goes before us. He's the one who's going to fight on our behalf. He is the one that is going to bring. He's the rock that we look to. The one that has brought us deliverance. The one that is come to set us free. That he's taken us out of the clutches of the enemy. And he's delivered us from the pit of hell. And so we continue to read Isaiah chapter 51 verses 2. Look to Abraham your father and to Sarah who bore you. For he was alone when I called him, and I blessed him and increased him. So what is he saying? Look to your father of faith. Look to your father of the covenant. Look to your fathers. That was the father of the covenant, the one with which I made covenant. Look to Abraham your father and to Sarah who bore you. The covenant was made with Abraham. Abraham was the one man. He was one man, but faithfulness came from his obedience. Come back into covenant is what he's saying. Come back into the covenant. Look to Abraham. Look to Sarah. They are the mother and the father of your faith. She bore the blessed promise that came from Abba Yahuwah. And they were obedient. His obedience is what one man, but faithfulness. Abraham was one man, but faithfulness came from his obedience. And so he's calling us to come back into covenant. What can Abba do with our lives if we are faithful? So imagine, just like Abraham, Father chose one man who was willing to be obedient to him. And through his obedience, how many people have come into covenant with the Father and that are now in fellowship with the Father? Because through one man's obedience, many come into the kingdom. But through one man's disobedience, how many people will fall? And so that's why if we have a look in Genesis chapter 17, let's go to Genesis chapter 17 and then we have a look at the promise. And so in Genesis chapter 17, from verses 1, he says, and it came to be when Avram was 99 years old that Yahuwah appeared to Avram and said to him, I am El Shaddai, walk before me and be perfect. And I give my covenant between me and you, and shall greatly increase you. And Avram fell on his face, and Eloah spoke with him, saying, as for me, look, my covenant is with you. And you shall become a father of many nations. And no longer is your name called Avram, but your name shall be Abraham, because I shall make you a father of many nations, and I shall make you exceedingly fruitful, and make nations of you, and sovereigns shall come forth from you. And I shall establish my covenant between me and you, and your seed, and after you in this generation, for an everlasting covenant, to be a lure to you, and your seed after you. So you see, Abba Yahuwah was going to be an allure to him, and a lure to his seed after him. And I shall give to you and your seed after you the land of your sojourning, all the land of Canaan as an everlasting possession, and I shall be their allure. And the Lord said to Avram, as for you, guard my covenant, and you and your seed after you throughout their generations. And so at the end of the day, everything is about coming back into covenant with the Father. The Father wants us to be able to come back into covenant. And this is what he's saying. Come back to your fathers of your faith. Come back to Avram, Yitzhak, Yaakov, to the covenant that was made with you from the beginning. The covenant that I made with Avram. Avram had a covenant and he changed his name to Avraham. And so we have a look at Romans chapter 1. And so now if we fast forward and then we come to the renewed covenant, we look and we see from verses 16, and it says, for I am not ashamed of the good news of Messiah, for it is the power of allure for deliverance to everyone who believes in the Yehudi first and also to the Greek. For it is the righteousness of allure, for in it the righteousness of allure is revealed from belief to belief, as it has been written, but the righteous shall live by belief. So you see, now it is a case of where we walk by faith and by the truth of the word, spirit and truth. So we're walking by faith, we have belief in who the Father is, and therefore we put his word into practice. For the wrath of allure is revealed from heaven against all wickedness. So you see, what did he do? He brought judgment. He brought judgment upon Israel. Why did he bring judgment upon them? Because they turned away from his ways. They turned away from him. They stopped following his ordinances. They stopped following his commands and his Torah ways. And therefore, they received his judgment. Now he's saying, for the wrath of allure is revealed from heaven against all wickedness and unrighteousness. That's why he says, that's why he turns around and he says, you who pursue righteousness, seek Yahuwah. Because there is a generation that is seeking Yahuwah's face, that will come back to his righteous ways, because that is what he desires. This is what he desired from the beginning. And so he says, because it's against all wickedness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. So they don't want to walk out the truth of the Father's ways. They want unrighteousness. They want lawlessness. They want to do things their way. They want to have their own gospel. They want to be able to serve the Father in their own ways. It doesn't work like that. The Father is not interested in all your religious acts that you give him. Truly, he's not interested in that. He was not interested in the fact that Cain still gave him an offering. He didn't give him a first fruits offering, and therefore he was not pleased with his offering. So how do we try and please the Father in our own flesh way? He doesn't look upon our flesh. And that's why he wants obedience. Because that which is known of allure is manifest among them, for allure has manifested to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible qualities have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, both his everlasting power and mightiness, for them to be without excuse. So understand, in the end, we will have no excuse. We have this Bible from Genesis to Revelation. If people chose not to read it and to hear what the Father is saying, it's their choice. But he's already spoken. and that which he spoke, he will do. Because although they knew Alua, so you see, listen carefully, there are many professing to know him, although they know Alua. They did not esteem him as Alua, nor give thanks, but became vain in their reasonings, and their undiscerning heart was darkened. And this is where the problem has come in. And claiming to be wise, they became fools, and changed the esteem of incorruptible Alua into the likeness of an image of corruptible man, and of birds, and of four-footed beasts, and of reptiles. So we will serve the created things as opposed to serving the Creator. And this is why he will bring his judgments. And so we continue to read in Isaiah 51 verses 3. And he says, For Yahuwah shall comfort Zion. He shall comfort all her waste places. For he makes her wilderness like Eden. Wow. And her desert like the garden of Yahuwah. Joy and gladness are found in it. Thanksgiving and the voice of song. So understand. Here we see his will is to bring us back to a garden of Eden. Our desert, our wilderness will be like a garden. We will have joy and gladness when we return to him and his ways and his covenant. He put us in Eden, and he wanted us to dwell with him. And nothing has changed. It is still his desire. He still desires to have a people that are going to be able to commune with him and worship him and give him thanksgiving, give him joy, give him gladness, be gladness of heart, and a voice of song, to worship him and glorify him and raise up his set-apart name. This is what he's desired from the beginning. This is what he wanted of us. Verse 4, Listen to me, my people, and give ear to me, O my nation, for the Torah goes forth from me, and my right ruling I set as a light to peoples. Wow. My right ruling I set as a light for peoples. And so he's saying, listen to me, my people, and give ear to me, O my nation, for the Torah goes forth from me. So I ask you, how can you say you love the Father, you serve the Father, when at the end of the day, the Torah comes forth from him? So how can you have the Father and not the Torah? Because they are the one package. Abba Yahuwah spoke the Torah. Yahushua became the Torah in the flesh, and the Ruach of Yahuwah helps us to walk it out. It's a full package. You can't chuck it out and say, well, that I don't need. Can't do that. We can't throw it away. And so, here we see that his Torah comes forth from him, and his right ruling, his judgments. It is a light unto our path. And who became the light? Yahushua is the light. The Torah made manifest in the flesh, and he will lead us in all truth. And so if we have a look and we see Micah chapter 4 verse 2. Let's go to Micah. Micah chapter 4 verses 2, and it says, And many nations shall come and say, So let's just read, because this is what the Father is speaking here. The Father is prophetically speaking through the mouth of Yeshayahu that there is going to be a prophetic time when everybody's going to return back to Mount Zion. This is the prophetic reign of when there's going to be the millennial reign, when everybody's going to return back to Zion. And once again, Zion will be established and His Torah shall come forth from Zion. Now listen to what he says. And in the latter days it shall be that the mountain of the house of Yahuwah is established on the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and the people shall flow to it. And many nations shall come and say, Come, let us go up to the mountain of Yahuwah, to the house of Eloah of Yaakov, and to let Him teach us His ways, and let us walk in His paths. For out of Zion comes forth the Torah. So out of Zion comes forth the Torah, and the word of Yahuwah from Jerusalem. And you see, and He shall judge among many peoples, and reprove strong nations afar. They shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their shears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither teach battle anymore. So you see, His Torah shall come forth from Zion. And so we must understand, that is why today, that is the center of everything. And from there, His Torah goes forth. From there, He re-established the land of Eretz Israel. He allowed that land to be re-established. And His people, Judah, has returned. And now Israel is coming to know the ways of Yahuwah. And there will be a day when He will gather His 12 tribes. And in the millennial reign, He will bring them back. He will bring them back. And so that is why He speaks in Jeremiah chapter 31. We're still going to read that. Well, we can read it now. Jeremiah chapter 31. So let's have a look. Jeremiah chapter 31. Jeremiah 31. Verses 33, and it says, For this is the covenant I shall make with the house of Israel. After those days, declares Yahuwah, I shall put my Torah in their inward parts, and write it on their hearts, and I shall be their Eloah, and they shall be my people. Praise Abba Yahuwah. So that is what He's doing now with the house of Israel that has been scattered throughout the nations of the world. He is now writing His Torah upon the tablets of their heart, so that they can once again be able to be restored back to Abba Yahuwah, and come back, returning back to the ancient paths that is at crossroads. He says, come back, Jeremiah chapter 6:16, which is coming back to the ancient paths of Yahuwah. As that's coming to me, let me just quickly read it. Jeremiah chapter 6, verses 16. It's just coming to me. Father's got His own message here. Thus says Yahuwah, stand in the ways and see, and ask for the old paths where the good way is, and walk in it, and find rest for yourselves. But they said, we do not walk in it. And I raised up watchmen over you and said, listen to the voice of the shofar. But they said, we will not listen. So right now, the shofar is blowing. The shofar is blowing throughout Israel every single day throughout this month of Elul. The shofar is blowing to be able to wake up a people to return back to the Father. Therefore hear, you nations, and know, O congregations, what is upon them. Hear, O earth, see, I am bringing evil upon this people, even the fruit of their thoughts, because they have not listened to my words, nor my Torah, and they rejected it. So understand, those who are so-called Christian, believers in Messiah Yahushua, who is the living Torah, Now there is a message going forth saying it's time for you to repent and turn back from that which you have lost, because you are not a branch sapping of your own. You are to be grafted in to the original tree that is Israel. And you're not a branch of your own. And so some of those branches were cut off so that you could be grafted in and return back to the covenant, because there's only one covenant, the covenant that I made with them. And then, therefore, you return back to my ways and my commands. And if they're not going to, they too will be cut off. Just like Israel will be cut, just like Israel was cut off. And so that is why there is a stern warning coming. It's not going to help you to turn around and say, yes, but I have Jesus. Jesus has come in order to be able to bring you back into truth. He's given you the Ruach of Yahuwah, and we've got even less excuse, because if we truly received Messiah Yahushua, then He's given us the Ruach of Yahuwah, and He is to write Torah upon the tablets of our heart. But I believe that many people have received a counterfeit spirit and not the true set-apart Ruach of Yahuwah. Because the true set-apart Ruach of Yahuwah is going to bring you back into truth. So, let's have a look at Psalm 119 from verse 101. I have restrained my feet from every evil way, that I may guard your word. I have not turned aside from your right rulings, for you yourself have taught me. How sweet to my taste has your words been, more than honey to my mouth. From your orders I get understanding. Therefore I have hated every false way. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. So you see, Yahushua is the one that became the living Torah, which is now the lamp unto our feet. Because why? He is the Word. He's the living Word that was made manifest in the flesh. And therefore, He is the living Torah, and He is the light that lights up. So your Word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. And that is why it is a light to our path. And who became the light? Yahushua is the light, the Torah in the flesh. And He is the one that wants to lead us into all truth. And so we continue to read Isaiah chapter 51, verses 5. My righteousness is near, my deliverance shall go forth, and my arms judge peoples, coastlands. Wait upon me, and for my arm they wait expectantly. So understand, His righteousness shall go forth. His mercy and His justice are coming soon. His salvation, He's talking about this. This is future. This is when Isaiah is looking in the future and he's saying, my righteousness is near. Who is the righteousness? Who became righteousness in the flesh? We've just read it. Yahushua. My deliverance, my Yahushua shall go forth, and my arms judge peoples. Coastlands wait upon me, and for my arm they wait expectantly. So His righteousness shall go forth. His mercy and His justice are coming soon. His salvation, Yahushua, is on the way, and He will rule the nations. He will rule the nations with a rod of iron. He's going to rule the nations. Lift up your eyes to the heavens. Lift up your eyes to the heavens and look on the earth beneath. For the heavens shall vanish like smoke, and the earth wear out like a garment, and those who dwell in it die as gnats. But my deliverance is forever, and my righteousness is not broken. So understand what a promise this is for us. Oh, what a promise of Abba Yahuwah's faithfulness to His remnant. That for the righteous, heaven and earth can pass away, but His right rulings will stand forever. And so for those who pursue righteousness, they have nothing to fear. Because what does he say? He says, but my deliverance is forever, and my righteousness is not broken. He has made a covenant, and he's not going to break it. And so for those who pursue righteousness, there is a promise. And so if we have a look, because he's saying over here now, he says, listen to me, you who know righteousness. So he's speaking to a people who know righteousness and a people in whose heart is my Torah. Do not fear the reproach of men, nor be afraid of their revilings. Because why? He says before, my deliverance is forever and my righteousness is not broken. Because lift up your eyes to the heavens and look on the earth beneath, for the heavens shall vanish like smoke and the earth wear out like a garment, and those who dwell in it die as gnats. So if we look and see in Matthew chapter 5, verses 17 to 20, Yeshua spoke and he said, heaven and earth will pass away. Until heaven and earth has passed away, not one yud or one tittle of my Torah will pass away. Listen to what he says. In Matthew chapter 5, verses 17, do not think that I came to destroy the Torah or the prophets. Do you see? Where do we get the idea that he's come to do away with the law? But where do we get this idea? See, this is what church takes scripture and quotes it out of context and then builds a foundation on it and says, oh, the law's been nailed to the cross and we don't need the law anymore. And the law is not necessary anymore. But the law is Abba Yahuwah's instructions for set apart holy living. And he says, be set apart as I'm set apart. So how can we be set apart if we don't keep his way of doing things? It's ridiculous what we've been taught. Do not think I came to destroy the Torah or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to complete. So some Bibles will say to fulfill, and then in brackets says doing away with the law. Oh my goodness, I wanted to scratch that out and I wanted to tear out that page when I saw that. That word complete is the word for uphold and to establish. It means to fill up. It means to make full. It means to fill to the top. It means to perfect. So he came to perfect. That's why he tells you, he starts to speak. And he says that, under the law of Moses, if you committed murder, you were put to death. I say to you that if you so much as hate your brother in your heart, you've already committed murder. In the law of Moses, if you so much as committed, if you committed adultery, you would be put to death. I say to you, if you so much as look at a woman or a man lustfully, you've already committed adultery in your heart. In the law of Moses, he allowed you to give a certificate of divorce, but this was never what the Father wanted. Whoever puts away his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce. But I say to you that whoever puts away his wife, except for the matter of whoring, makes her commit adultery, and whoever marries a woman who has been put away commits adultery. This is what he has written. And so he ups the stake. He ups the stake. He makes it more, ups the stake. So he comes to perfect. He comes to fill up the blank places. He comes to make it even more difficult now than what Moses had it. And so he says, for truly I say to you, till heaven and earth pass away, one yud or one tittle shall by no means pass from the Torah until all be done. So heaven and earth has not passed away the last time I looked. Heaven and earth is still there. So therefore not one yud or one tittle shall by any means pass away until all has been done. Whoever then breaks one of the least of these commands and teaches men so shall be called least in the reign of the heavens. But whoever does the teachings, whoever does and teaches them, he shall be called great in the reigns of the heavens. So it doesn't help you to just teach it. You need to do it. You need to put it into practice. And so then if we look at Matthew, Matthew chapter 24, verse 35, excuse me. Matthew chapter 24, verse 35, he says, the heaven and the earth shall pass away, but my words shall by no means pass away. So understand something. His word is His word, and His word is not going to pass away. So heaven and earth can pass away, but His word is not going to pass away. We continue to read verses 7 of Isaiah 51. Listen to me, you who know righteousness, a people in whose heart is my Torah. Do not fear the reproach of men, nor be afraid of their revilings. We have nothing to fear. If we are those who have the written Torah on our hearts, if we have the Torah that has been written by Yahuwah, not this Torah of the flesh, not what the Jews want to give us. That is a Talmudic Torah. That is not the Torah of the Spirit. If we have Abba Yahuwah's written Torah on our hearts and are walking out the ways of Torah, then what do we have to fear? What is our problem? What do we have to fear? And this is why He is speaking. And He says clearly to us, clearly He turns around and He says to us, what do we need to fear? We do not need to fear anything. And that is why He's saying, my Torah, do not fear the reproach of men. So don't fear when men speak bad again about you. Do not fear when men want to persecute you. Do not fear any of these things. Do not fear. Why? Because what is there to fear? What is there to fear? What is there to fear when man wants to come up against you? What is there to fear? We don't need to fear anything. The only one that we fear is Abba Yahuwah. And so that is why He says in verse, so if we have a look at Psalm 37, verses 30 to 31. Psalm 37, 30 to 31. And it says, the mouth of the righteous speaks wisdom, and his tongue talks of right rulings. The Torah of his Alua is in his heart. His steps do not slide. So understand, when the Father has put the Torah on our hearts, and we are walking out that Torah, are we going to fear pestilence? Are we going to fear disease? Are we going to fear persecution? Are we going to fear what man is wanting to do to us? Are we going to fear the fact that we're going to maybe need to be imprisoned? Are we going to fear the fact that we might have to die for our faith? We don't need to fear anything. The only one that we fear is Abba Yahuwah. And so, have a look now and see Psalm 119. Let's go to Psalm 119 again. So we go to Psalm 119 verses 11 and 12. And it says, I have treasured up your word in my heart, that I might not sin against you. Blessed are you, Yahuwah. Teach me your laws. So you see, the Torah is treasured in our hearts, and therefore we do not sin. Because it says, I treasured your word in my heart, and that word is his Torah way, that I might not sin against you. Blessed are you, O Yahuwah. Teach me your laws. With my lips I have recounted all the right rulings of your mouth. I have rejoiced in the way of your witness. as over all riches. I meditate on your orders and regard your ways. I delight myself in your laws. I do not forget your word. And then verse 18. Open my eyes that I may see the wonders from your Torah. And so praise Abba Yahuwah. And then we look at James. Let's go to James. In James chapter 1, verses 22 to 25, and it says, and become doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. You see, so there's many people that are hearers of the word, and they can sit hours, and they read books, and they listen to teachings, and this is all they do. Read more things, and more books, and more teachings, but yet at the end of the day, he says, become doers of the word. And not just hearers only, deceiving yourselves. Because if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he's like a man who looks at his natural face in a mirror. For he looks at himself and goes away and immediately forgets what he was like. But he that looked into the perfect Torah, that of freedom, and continues in it, not becoming a hearer that forgets, but a doer of work, this one shall be blessed in his doing of the Torah. So you see, there's many people. They want to study all the Torah portions, and they keep doing all these studies of the Torah portions, and they listen to the word, and they read books, and they read all these things, but they're not willing to put anything into practice. It doesn't help us to just be a hearer of the word. We need to take the word that we hear, and we need to apply it into our hearts. And this is the problem. We have become too much. That's why we can quote scripture and verse, and we know all about the Father, but we don't have that intimacy because we have not been taught to obey. And therefore, the time has come now for us to obey. We are to obey the word. And so we continue to read. And here we are in verse 8. For a moth eats them like a garment, and a worm eats them like wool. But my righteousness is forever, and my deliverance to all generations. You see, my righteousness is forever, because those are his right rulings, and he's going to bring us his deliverance, who's Yahushua, and Yahushua is going to make sure that he's going to bring it to pass to all generations. And so at the end of the day, he is the one who's going to bring everything to pass for all generations, because he says, for moth. So what is he trying to say to us? He's trying to say to us that the moth eats them as it destroys the clothes, but his righteousness is forever, and his deliverance, Yahushua, is to all generations. As he parted, because then let's continue to read, because I actually put all these scriptures together. Awake, awake, put on strength, O arm of Yahuwah. Awake as in the days of old. Everlasting generation, was it not you who cut Rahab apart and pierced the crocodile? Was it not you who dried up the sea, the waters of the great deep, who made the depths of the sea a way for the redeemed to pass over? So at the end of the day, what does he say? Righteousness is forever, and his deliverance, Yahushua, to all generations. As he parted the Red Sea, he will part whatever it is that needs to be parted in our lives. He says, who is the one who brought the deliverance? Who is the one that was there for you in the beginning? Who is the one that parted the Red Sea for you? Who is the one that went and drowned all the army of Egypt in the sea? Who is the one? He's the one that has done all of this. So what is there for us to fear? So look at Deuteronomy 4 verses 34. Deuteronomy 4 verses 34 says, or has Elohim tried to go and take for himself a nation? So let's look from verse 33. Has a people heard the voice of Elohim speaking out of the midst of the fire, as you have heard and live? So understand, this was a people that was hearing him speak out of the mouth of the fire. They heard him. When he was on top of Mount Sinai, they heard him. And they heard him speak out of the thunder and the lightning and the fire. And yet they lived. Or has Elohim tried to go and take for himself a nation from the midst of a nation by trials, and by signs, and by wonders, and by battle, and by a strong hand, and an outstretched arm, and by great fearsome deeds, according to all that Yahuwah, your Elohim, did for you in Mitzrayim before your eyes? You have been shown it to know that Yahuwah himself is Elohim. There is no one besides him. From the heavens he let you hear his voice to instruct you on earth. He showed you his great fire, and you heard his words out of the midst of the fire. And because he loved your fathers, therefore he chose their seed after them and brought you out of Mitzrayim with his presence, with his great power. He was a pillar of fire by night and a cloud by day. They had him with them constantly as they were being led through the wilderness. And so what is he trying to say to us here? And he's saying, so was it not you who dried up the sea, waters of the great deep, who made the depths of the sea a way for the redeemed to pass over? So the redeemed, those whom he's delivered, they got nothing to fear. He will part the Red Sea. He will even be able to use Rahab, where he turns around and he said, was it not you who cut Rahab apart and pierced the crocodile? So he's the one who has done mighty and great deeds in our midst. Verse 11, and let the ransom of Yahuwah return, and they shall come to Zion with singing, with everlasting joy on their heads. Let them attain joy and gladness. Sorrow and sighing shall flee from them. And so if we go to Jeremiah chapter 33, and we will see this in Jeremiah chapter 33, where he turns around and he says in Jeremiah chapter 33, verses 11, and he says, and the voice of joy and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride, the voice of those who are saying, praise Yahuwah of hosts, for Yahuwah is good, for his loving commitment is forever. Of those who are bringing the offerings of praise into the house of Yahuwah, for I shall turn back the captivity of the land as at first, declares Yahuwah. So understand, this is Isaiah way before any time of this happening, before they've even gone into Babylon. He's already speaking about their deliverance. He's already speaking about a remnant. But at the same time, he's speaking way into the future, into our future, going into the millennial reign, already saying, I am going to gather a people for myself that is going to come out of the nations, and they will be my people. And so what do they have to fear? And so he says, and sorrow and sighing shall flee away. So we've got nothing to be sorry for. We've got nothing to be depressed about. All of that flees from us when we have our deliverer, Yahushua. That's why I say, if we look at the author and the finisher of our faith and we keep our eyes on him, then what is there for us to be able to be stressing about and fearful about? What? Explain that to me. And he says, verse 12, I am he who comforts you. Who are you that you should be afraid of man that dies, and of the Son of Man who is made like grass? So what is he saying? Abba is the one who comforts us, and we have nothing to fear. When our trust and our faith is in him, we need to fear him and him alone. What can man do to us? Man that is a created being. The devil that is a created being. So we fear the devil and the things that the devil does. We fear man. We fear man-made things upon the earth. But the one that we should fear, Yahuwah himself, who has the authority to throw us into Gehinnom, that is the one that we should fear. We shouldn't be fearing anything else. And listen to verse 13, from 13 to 15, and it says, "And you have forgotten Yahuwah, your Maker, who stretched out the heavens and laid the foundations of the earth. And you continually fear all day because of the rage of the oppressor, as he has prepared to destroy. And where is the rage of the oppressor? Bowed he hastens to be loosened, that he should not die in the pit, and that his bread should not fail. But I am Yahuwah your Lua, stirring up the sea and its waves roar. Yahuwah of hosts is his name. He's the captain of the army of hosts, and the waves will roar just like the lion of the tribe of Judah will roar." Now, how quickly we forget what Abba has done for us. He gives us great victory, like the parting of the Red Sea. This is what he's saying to them. What do you have to fear? Look what I have done for you. Have you forgotten what I have done for you? Have you forgotten that I am the Maker who stretched out the heavens and laid the foundations of the earth? And you continue to fear all day because of the rage of the oppressor. So why do you fear the devil? Why do you worry about what the devil is doing? Why do you fear the oppressor? Why do you fear pestilence and disease? So look and see how quick we are to be able to forget the miracles that the Father has given us. Just like the Israelites that feared Babylon. And so we fear the earthly Babylon, the world systems, the pandemics, the famines. Soon he will set the captives free of the Israelites, and so will he set us free, and we do not need to fear. He will deliver us. He says, "But I am Yahuwah your Lua, stirring up the sea, and its waves roar." Yahuwah of hosts is his name. He's Yahuwah Tzavaot. He's the captain of the army of hosts. He will fight for you and you will hold your peace. But now we fear. We fear what goes on. We fear the fact that, there's going to be more pestilence, more disease. We read these things and we fear the war that's coming. We fear the famine. We fear the pestilence. So that's why so many people bow to the system, because of fear. How many people live in constant fear? But you know what amazes me? Father will do a great miracle for you. You pray, Father does a miracle. A week later, another thing comes your way, and you've already forgotten the miracle that he gave you. So that's why I'm saying, miracles is not the things that we need to go by. Miracles, the Israelites had Father doing miracles for them constantly. Yet, they were the faithless people. Yet, they were a rebellious people. They couldn't have faith in him, even though he did all the miracles. But yet people are always seeking for signs and miracles. That's why I say, knowing what you stand for limits what you fall for. You need to know him, not the miracles. You need to know him, because when you know him, you will not fall. You will not have fear. You will not run with your tail between your legs from the oppressor, from the enemy. You will overcome your enemy. Verse 16. "And I have put my words in your mouth, and with the shadow of my hand I have covered you, to plant the heavens and lay the foundations of the earth, and to say to Zion, you are my people." So what are the words that he's put in your mouth? That you can speak to the enemy, that you can speak to a situation that wants to overcome you. What are the words that he's put in your mouth? What are the words that you should speak, as opposed to speaking fear, as opposed to speaking all that fear that is around you? What is it that you should instead be speaking? But you see, this is the problem. We speak the problem, not the solution. Should we really speak the problem? At the end of the day, we know we need to confess the things that are not as though they were. So many times, people with their negative mouths cancel out the things of the Father because of the words that come out of their mouth, because they cannot have faith to believe that Father can do something. We need to go past what we see in the natural and be able to look to the Father in the ways of the supernatural, to believe that He is a righteous judge and that He will judge and He will do what's right in His eyes. And that's why He says He put His words in the mouth of Yeshayahu. He put His words in the mouth of Yahushua. And with the shadow of my hand I have covered you, to plant the heavens and the earth, and to plant the heavens and lay the foundations of the earth, and to say to Zion, you are my people. So what is the Father saying to us right now? You are my people. What do you have to fear, my people? You are my people. What are you fearing? What are you concerning yourself about? He spoke right in the beginning and He said, for you who pursue righteousness, seeking Yahuwah, look to the rock. Look to Yahushua. He is the rock from which you have been hewn. He is the rock that delivered you out of the pit. And therefore I put words in your mouth that you are to stand up in your authority and speak up against the situation that wants to destroy you. Awake yourself. Awake yourself. Rise up, O Jerusalem, you who have drank at the hand of Yahuwah the cup of His wrath. You have drank the dregs of the cup of reeling and drained it out. The dregs is all that thick. It's like the leaf. It's those thick juice. That is when you squeeze out the grapes. It's that thick pulp that is there. It's the dreg. So all this thick judgment that He's brought, His wrath, you have drank that cup of reeling, and drained it out. And so we must understand, here we see that Abba is speaking to Isaiah, and that He put the words in his mouth, and to proclaim release to the captives. And then He spoke again to Yahushua, that also spoke release to the captives. And so the Father is wanting to be able to set a people free, because He's the one who has brought a judgment, but He's the one who's going to be able to bring deliverance to a people. So if we look at Jeremiah chapter 25, look at Jeremiah chapter 25, verses 15 to 16. For thus says Yahuwah, Eloah of Israel, to me, take this wine cup of wrath from my hand, and make all the nations to whom I send you drink it. And they shall drink and shake and go mad because of the sword that I am sending among them. So even the sword Father sent amongst His own people, just like this is a prophetic word that He's going to send the sword upon all the nations of the world. And now if we have a look at Revelation chapter 14, verses 9 and 10, listen to what He says. And a third messenger followed them, saying with a loud voice, if anyone worships the beast and his image, and receives his mark upon his forehead and upon his hand, he shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Eloah, which is poured out undiluted into the cup of his wrath. And he shall be tortured with fire and sulfur before the set-apart messenger and before the Lamb. And the smoke of their torture goes up forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night, those worshipping the beast and his image, also if anyone receives the mark of his name. Now look what he says in verse 12. Here is the endurance of the set-apart ones. Here are those guarding the commands of Eloah and the belief of Yahushua. And so at the end of the day, these things is what He's saying. He's going to bring the cup of His wrath upon those that are going to bow to a beast system. Because you see, what did Israel do? Israel bowed to their neighbors, bowed to their mighty ones, bowed to them for an alliance with them. And so the Father does not want us to be able to turn to the things of the world to be our deliverance. So you see, when we bow to the thing of the world to become our deliverance, that is bowing down to the beast system, because that is exactly what Israel did. Therefore, they wanted to bow down to their neighbors. They wanted to bow down to their, Yah is Hezekiah, King Hezekiah, opening up the palace doors and showing the king of Babylon all his riches. And just a little bit after that, the same Babylonian people are going to be able to come and bring destruction upon his people. And his people went into captivity for 70 years because of pride and arrogance. But we seem to think that the Father is just going to overlook everything. That is why as we breathe, we need to repent. So we continue to read. And so even if we look, let's just quickly, because I forgot to read this one, Revelation chapter 16 verses 19. Revelation chapter 16 verses 19 says, "And the great city became divided into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell, and the great Babel was remembered before Eloah to give her the cup of wine of the fierceness of his wrath." And so the Father is the one who's going to bring the judgment. Verse 18, "Of all the sons she bore, she has none to guide her, and of all the sons she brought up, none is strengthening her hand." So you see, Israel brought forth many sons. Israel brought forth many descendants. But yet at the end of the day, all the children that Israel bore, there is none to guide them, none to strengthen her. Where are they? They all fell by the sword and by the famine and into captivity. And so we continue to read from verses 19 to 21, and it says, "Both these are coming upon you. Who is sorry for you? Ruin and destruction, scarcity of food and sword. How shall I comfort you?" So here we go again. This is now Isaiah prophesying what is going to come upon Judah, the house of Judah, and the house of Israel, that is going to go into captivity, because Babylon was going to be the greatest kingdom, and they were all going to come under the judgment of the Father because of what they've been doing. And the Father drew the line and said, "It's enough, and now I'm going to hand you over to scarcity of food. I'm going to hand you over to the sword, and how shall I comfort you? Your sons have fainted. They lie at the head of all the streets, like a gazelle in a net. They are filled with the wrath of Yahuwah, the rebuke of your Eloah. Therefore, please hear this. You afflicted and drunk, but not with wine." They are drunk from the wrath of Yahuwah, because they've drunk from the cup of his wrath. And so we see that Isaiah is seeing ahead of what is going to happen. And this is why we must understand, as he's speaking, there is a future judgment coming upon a Babylon, and there is a future judgment coming upon his people who profess to be called by his name, but yet do not follow his ways. And so there are many nations that pride themselves, that will turn around and say, "But we are a Christian nation. We follow the Father." But they do not do his way. That's why there's great judgment coming to America. But there's also great judgment coming to South Africa. Because South Africa is also a nation that prides itself in saying, "Oh, but we are a Christian nation." But yet at the end of the day, they do not turn to the Father and his ways. They have all their rallies, and they gather 1 million people together and then command to him what he must do for them, as opposed to truly repenting and turning back to his ways and how he wants to be served. And so there's much arrogance and pride amongst those who call themselves Christian. And the Father is going to bring a great judgment, because you see, He allowed Israel to go into Babylon, that He was going to shake out of them, to bring out of that a righteous remnant. And so this is history repeat itself. The Father, already in the time of the Spanish Inquisition, the Portuguese Inquisition, He shook them because they were into much, the Judaism by that time had taken hold of them, and they were into a lot of witchcraft in the ways in which they were seeking the Father. And so in the end of the day, He allowed the Inquisition to take place. And again from there rose up a remnant. And then again, in the Holocaust, again He allowed that to come upon them. But from there, He took out a remnant. And so the Father allows destruction to come upon His people because they're so far from Him. They do not seek Him. They are into religious things. And then those religious things become even more wicked. Because I have read the book, because my ancestors were the Portuguese Jews that lived in the land in Portugal at the time of the Inquisition in the late 1400s, beginning of the 1500s. And believe you me, they were into a lot of Kabbalah, which is to do with witchcraft. It's Kabbalistic things, mysticism. They go into mysticism and a lot of things that was not right. And so the Father will shake to bring out of there a righteous remnant, a seed. And so I've been able to walk through those streets, exactly where those inquisitions took place, where they burnt my people at the stake. And I've been able to stand. And there's an olive tree standing right outside the place where the Inquisition took place, where they burnt at the stake so many. And I have stood there, and there's an olive tree there. And I've been able to stand there and say, Father, may there be, here I am, a branch that is going to come forth out of the ashes of that which was here in this very place. Out of the ashes there shall be a seed that shall come forth and turn back to you and to your ways. And that is what the Father will do. And this is what the Father is doing here. And so in Jeremiah chapter 14 verses 16, let's go read Jeremiah chapter 14. Jeremiah chapter 14 verses 16. And he says, and the people to whom they are prophesying shall be thrown out into the streets of Jerusalem, because of the scarcity of food and the sword, with no one to bury them, then them nor their wives, their sons nor their daughters, for I shall pour their evil on them. And this is the Father's wrath that will come upon them. But now he speaks from 22 to 23, and he says, Thus said the Master Yahuwah, your Eloah, who pleads the cause of his people. See, I shall take out of you, your hand, the cup of reeling, the dregs of the cup of my wrath. Never again shall you drink it. So praise Abba Yahuwah. Abba is saying, I am going to take out of there a remnant. I am going to take a remnant, and you will not drink this cup again. For that generation, they were not going to drink the cup again. Because why? They would have they would have learned their lesson. And verse 23 says, and I shall put it into the hand of those who afflicted you, who have said to your being, bow down, and we pass over you, and you made your back like the ground, and at the street, and as the street to walk over. So they had to bow down to them, and they totally annihilated them and totally destroyed them, and they were humbled at the hand of the Babylonians. But at the appointed time, Father was going to raise up Cyrus that was going to bring destruction on them. And so he will deliver them from his wrath, and he will recompense them, and he will judge their enemies. They will no longer be able to walk. The enemy will no longer be able to walk all over them. So many times we go through much affliction, and the Father allows it, but there is a time for his deliverance. So understand, if you find yourself today in a place where maybe you are being afflicted, maybe there is something that's going on in your life, or something that's going on in your body, something that is going on in your life that by now you are saying, Father, please. And he has allowed the affliction. And remember, Yeshua learned obedience through what he suffered. And so many of us, some of us are really suffering at the hand of the enemy that is bringing such destruction upon our lives. And it seems like the Father is not there. And the Father will allow what he needs to allow in order to bring a purification process, because remember, he wants to refine you like gold so that you may carry his glory. So you're either going to resist his process, and you're either going to fight against his process, or you're either going to be able to allow the Father to have his way, not point a finger at him, not come up against him, not be able to speak up against him, but to submit and surrender to him and to his way. Like Yeshua in the Garden of Gethsemane, where he said, Father, please can you take this cup away from me? Yet not my will, but your will be done. Are we able to say that? So that even when we are going through these difficult times and it doesn't make sense, but I need you to understand that the whole of Isaiah 51, you have read and you have seen how Father is speaking to a righteous remnant, how he is saying, I am the one that brought the judgment upon you. I am the one that has done all this. But understand, I am the one that will deliver you. I am the one that will be there for you. I am the one that is going to, in turn against your enemy and destroy your enemy for what they have done to you. And I will raise up a remnant. And this remnant is the remnant that is going to be able to serve me, a righteous seed. I will have a righteous seed that will come forth. May we be that righteous seed for the Father. May we be that righteous seed that will be able to proclaim his praise upon the earth. A people that will seek his face, a people with clean hands and a pure heart that will once again ascend the mountain of Yahuwah. So Jerusalem will become a praise for the Father. But I want you to know, once again he's going to shake the heavens and the earth. Because why? There is so much wickedness. Those who profess to know him, yet do not walk according to his ways. So may Abba bless you all. Shalom, shalom.